Good evening, folks. This is TB at TB's Cabin on Saturday night, the 23rd of 2013. I've got an F-150 Ford pickup, four-wheel drive, red extended cab. Very nice. I could clean and I can upload it. The pictures of it. I think I can. Maybe I can get a video of it and put it on tomorrow. It's nighttime right now. In case anybody would be interested in purchasing a F-150 2004 Ford F-150 four-wheel drive. Very nice. No dings. Pretty much pretty slick. There's not any dings to my knowledge. For as in the body, I think it's got one little ding in the bumper. And that's where I backed into my mailbox. No big deal. It's not a big ding either. It's not bad. That's the only ding I can think of that it has on it that I've noticed that I know of. It's got aftermarket 17-inch mag wheels on it. Very sharp. They can be cleaned up a little more yet. That's no problem. It's four-wheel drive. Like I say, it's got high range and low range automatic four-wheel drive. It's loaded. It has a fancy stereo in it. It has telephone capabilities right through the stereo. You can have that hooked up if you like. You can have satellite radio if you want with it, if you want to pay for that service. It's got all that. It's loaded. My truck is super loaded is what I'm telling you. Runs pretty good. It's clean. It could use some new plugs now. Just minor things like that. Maybe an oil change for long I'm fixing to do to it. Other than that, it's pretty clean. It's nice. It purrs like a kitty cat. It'll tear up the highway. It'll pull down a freight train. For all that, the only other thing I think it would need is just some mud and snow tires on the back if you're going to use it on the ranch or out in the country for very much. You know, like pulling trailers across pastures and stuff. You might want to put some mud and snow tires on the back. But other than that, it's got street tires. It's pretty nice. I live here in the city, so that's why I say why I couldn't get in the bottom. It's not that it ain't four-wheel drive, but even four-wheel drive can be stuck. Don't kid yourself. I know all about that stuff. I lived it for about 30 years, you know, using feed trucks on the ranch, and in the spring, every spring we'd feed the cows out on the ranch, and my boss believed in catering to the cows, so here we go. And sometimes you got the feed job done, and you fed them in the trough when it was muddy. When it's froze over, we'd feed them on the ground. When it's, ground's froze good, so they can't get worms. But otherwise, we had to feed them in the concrete troughs and stuff like that. Them range pellets. We also fed creep feed to the calves, but the cows we fed range pellets. About 20 pounds per cow, I think, is what we give them. About a scoop shovel full, I think, for each cow. About 4 pounds per cow per day, anyhow. Something like that, I think, is what he fed them. It's been a while since I fed them. I'm trying to remember for sure. But anyway, that's what I've got to sell or trade on. I'm asking $10,500 for it. It's worth about 13 or 14,000, between 13 and 14, on the Blue Book. But it's loaded, folks. It's a very sweet, nice looking truck. It runs good. The only reason I want rid of it, I just don't use it enough, and living here in town, I could get by with just a regular two-wheel, a half-ton truck, you know. And the thing about it is, this one drinks quite a bit of gas. I mean, it's probably a 400. It's a 5.4 Triton. It's supercharged. The dang thing will run now. It'll pull down a freight train, like I say, especially if you get some good mud and snow tires on the back. But I'm only asking $10,500 for this little truck, and I would consider taking 9 in an older truck, either a Ford, Chevy, or Dodge, half-ton, three-quarter ton. It don't matter. Even if the old truck smokes, I don't care. I'm going to restore it. I want a 79 or older, 1979 or older. I can rebuild those myself. I don't need a mechanic that much on them. These new ones I can't work on if they ever do have any trouble, especially the electrical side. You have to take to a shop and I hate paying that diagnostic test. That's the thing when your electrical stuff, if it goes out on them, and usually, most time it don't, but it could, and when it does, then they got to run a bunch of tests. I had a Dodge 97 out, and I still got the van sitting out front, but it's when I took the motor to have it checked out, I bought a new motor to put in it, got it all hooked up, but then I found I had electrical shorts in the 1997 Dodge van. Well, they checked the motor was bad. This was a new rebuilt motor too, from Surefire Motors, so I don't recommend them to anybody to buy anything off from. I had to get a lawyer to write them a letter so they'd settle with me out of court while they claimed no wrongdoing. Yeah, well, the motor was just same as an old one according to Dodge out here when I had it checked out and everything for the test. Well, the diagnostic test hit me for $329. So it wasn't cheap, folks, and it sat out there for 2.5 weeks at the Dodge place before they got to it. They might have worked maybe 2-3 hours on it, if that. That's all looking for the short, and that's what they hit me for. Now, I don't like that kind of business. Back when I did mechanics for folks and put a motor in, I told them what I'd do it for. And when they got the money and wanted it done, that's when I did it. They pay me and I do the job that I'm paid to do and guarantee it to be good. But I don't do that kind of work anymore either. I can do some mechanics on 79 on back. I can take Ford, I can take Chevrolet parts, I can take Chevrolet and Pontiac parts will interchange. You can take a 1969 Catalina and put it right on a 1970 model Chevy pickup front end and it will fit, folks. I've done it, and the only difference is you got to change the brake lines. The brake line on the left side goes on the right, and the right one goes on the left. Just people don't know those things about the vehicles of that time, but I do. I built the cars right out of the salvage yard. I was good. I built race cars back then. Now today I don't call myself a expert on nothing, but I was then. I could build almost anything, and make it work. I had tools in and access to welders and cutting torches and stuff and ways of balancing the flywheels and balancing the you could take and put a Ford 429 down in a Chevrolet pickup by welding Ford motor mounts in it. Then all you got to do is put a Ford rear end under it, and you can put a Ford drive line and run it right out the rear end of that thing, and it's the same thing. It'll work. I mean, people now some people cut the drive line, and you can do that too and bevel it, but you got to balance that or it'll whip your universal joints out. That's the reason that I just changed over to the Ford rear ends, and whenever I did that, because Ford has a good rear end. It's their front ends I don't like on Ford that well. They get out of line on them older dogs. Now these new ones I'm driving, I ain't had any trouble with the front end being out of line, but you just can't grease them. They don't have a grease cert. They're a seal bushing or ball joint. You can't grease that up there. The ball joints have no grease certs. It's just made that way. When it goes out, you got to take it to the garage and have them press in another. It's just job security for the mechanic. That's all it is. But that's enough about the Ford F-150. I just wanted to let you know what I got for sale. And like I say, I would trade for $9,000 and a used Ford, Chevy, or Dodge half-ton or 3/4 ton truck. Don't make any difference which. Even if it's, long as it's runnable and has a clear title, I would take $9,000 in an older truck like that. For a 97 on back, all the way back to, a 1967 or 68 even. But those are classics, and I don't blame folks. I wouldn't give up a classic or an antique like that. Some of them are really, valuable to them. But I'm looking for some older truck that I can fix in the 70s. It don't have to be long as it ain't cancer eat to death or rusty. So rusted out so bad I can't sand it down and paint it. I don't mind it being a little skin up, that's no big deal, and a ding or two, because they are going to have a ding or two in that age unless somebody's restored them. Now, it's just an older truck, I had a 1976 GMC I should have kept. I wish now I hadn't sold it. I could have went and bought a new carburetor for it, Instead, I sold it because of the carburetor. Every year, Otto's own carburetor